really the selling point for me to prospective candidates is the mission of what we do. Each and every day we wake up and we're protecting the data, we're protecting the systems that deliver services to the constituents of the city of Chicago.
This is a Security Weekly production. Security Weekly is a resource of Cyber Risk Alliance.
The Cybersecurity Collaborative is proud to present CISO Stories. Each week, CISO Stories takes a deep dive on security leadership with one of the contributors to my latest book, the best-selling CISO Compass: Navigating Cybersecurity Leadership Challenges with Insights from Pioneers, as well as other top CISOs and industry security leaders. The Cybersecurity Collaborative is a unique membership community enabling cybersecurity leaders to work together in a trusted environment. To learn more, visit securityweekly.com/CSC or visit cyberleadersunite.com. I'm your host, Todd Fitzgerald, and this week we welcome Bruce Coffing, CISO at the City of Chicago.
Thanks, Todd. And first of all, let me say it's great to be here. I'm excited to have the opportunity to participate in your podcast. I've been, longtime admirer of your work and your books and everything. So it's great to be here. But to your question, I would say I feel like I've always been in cybersecurity. And I sometimes joke I was in cybersecurity when I would call it was just fancy operations. And there really wasn't so much of a security thing. So when Andersen Consulting, now Accenture, built its first started a cybersecurity practice back in the late 90s, I migrated from the networking practice into the security practice. So and kind of have been in, out, and around cybersecurity ever since. I think it just really speaks to my nature of liking to protect things and keep things safe from harm. And so I find a lot of joy and happiness in the work. I find it very rewarding.
I find that a lot. That it's not just a job for CISOs. There's a passion there. There's a responsibility to serve. As strange as that may sound, or altruistic, or whatever, but there's kind of a feeling of wanting to help others, and I think that's why there's so many good people like yourself in this industry.
Thank you.
So.
Yeah, and I think that it also speaks to my current position in the public sector is there is that servant leadership quality to it, the mission of it, and just really that we're certainly not here for the money. We're here because we have a passion about what we're doing.
Well, so let's talk about that. You have the role of the CISO for the City of Chicago, which is no small task. I mean, the City of Chicago is the third largest city. Somehow LA snuck in there and it became the second largest city.
And it's just urban sprawl.
But we still have the second city comedy stuff. So we still kind of like that label, I think. But tell us about that. What's the scope of what you're responsible for?
Sure. So the City of Chicago, just a quick aside, it's hard to compare any two government cybersecurity programs, because whether it's a county or even comparing cities, they're all structured differently. You've got, it depends what's in scope. So for example, for Chicago, we have a core city that has between 30 and 40 departments, offices, and the such. So just different distinctions of groups and services that are being delivered. But then we have a number of what we call sister agencies. So Chicago Public Schools, Chicago Transit Authority, McPeer are a part of what are the sister agencies. And the sister agencies are separate corporations from the City of Chicago. itself being its own corporation. So those sister agencies are out of scope for me. But what is in scope is everything from aviation to water management. So we've got the second busiest airport in the country, and we have the world's largest water filtration plant. So every aviation to water management, police, fire, emergency management in between, and all of your standard back office functions. So there's about 30 departments that are in scope for the work that my team covers.
Wow. So I mean, that's, if we look at like, Chicago O'Hare, which I fly out of all the time. I mean, just managing O'Hare would be massive.
There's
on the other side.
They call themselves a city within the city. So, and the more that I've gotten involved there and tried to learn and understand the business of that department, and I'm trying to do that with all the departments, the more I've really understood what they mean by that, and the complexities that it takes to pull off and execute such a large organization.
So what does your day look like being a CISO of a large city government? Sure.
I mean, I guess the good side part of it is no 2 days are the same. There's it right now, the way the team is structured, I find myself very tactically focused, very operationally focused, but we're in the process of going through a broader IT transformation, and cybersecurity is a part of that. And so we're going to be growing my team over the course of this year and the next 2 years. And so I've joked with my boss that my job, once we get through this first leg of the transformation, is going to be very different than what my job is today, because I will have a leadership team in place, and they will be more responsible for the tactical day by day, and I'm going to extract myself from that. So, but today it is very operational. I spend a good deal of time with some of our key departments and their technology and operations teams, and helping them with how cyber impacts them, and where there's a good intersection with compliance as well. So, for example, you mentioned aviation. Right now, the TSA is in the process of rolling out a number of cybersecurity requirements. And so working with our aviation department to put the documentation in place, do the evaluation, and address what the TSA is trying to accomplish with respect to cybersecurity. So it's a fair amount, it's a fair amount of compliance and operations right now.
And you mentioned to me that your team isn't just growing; it's like exponentially growing. What's the main driver of that?
It's I've been very fortunate that we are looking at what we're doing with respect to IT and really investing in that. So I think the driver is really showing that there are services that we're looking to provide to the rest of the organization. I think there is an awareness that cybersecurity has become a very important critical function for the overall operations of the city. Even harkening back several years, you've had breaches in other municipalities that have impacted their ability to deliver services to their constituents, and people understand that we don't want that to happen here. So we want to make sure that we're creating an appropriately sized cybersecurity team to deliver services to protect the city's systems and data, so that the departments can focus on delivering services to our constituents.
Where would you say you invest most of your money in a city government?
From a cybersecurity perspective, or from just the government? From a cybersecurity perspective, right now, I'd say it's probably a split between tools, so licenses, and headcount. Obviously with adding more people, that will become skewed, which is good. One of the things that that I'm looking forward to doing with my time as we grow the team and I'm able to step away from some of the operational components is spend more time with the business and understand, what it is that's important to them, how they deliver their services to their constituents, so that, we can look at how we provide IT and cybersecurity services to them to reduce the friction they have in trying to make their jobs easier from a technology perspective.
So you operate as like a central core for the other departments, or are they managing their own security?
It's centralized, maybe a little less than I'd ideally like, but primarily centralized. And then as a part of the IT transformation, we're introducing additional IT governance that I think will help us kind of centralize, at least from an overview standpoint, more in IT, so that we have more common solutions, and we don't have as many one-off solutions, which will mean fewer things that we have to focus on and secure.
I know that you've worked in the past in financial areas, and I remember when we were having initial discussions about taking the CISO job in Chicago, and I'm just thrilled to see you there and protecting all those assets. What would you say is the difference, like, between a corporate organization and working in a government entity?
Sure. I think all situations are different, but for me, when people say, the resources are more constrained in government, you have to operate leaner than you would in the public sector in most cases. But, where I came from prior to here was Bank of America. So, at the time, the global information security team was, I think, around 1,200 people. CEO Brian Moynihan is on the record in the past year of saying, they spend $1 billion with a B on cybersecurity at Bank of America. So you have, much more ability to have roles more tightly defined. And so you have, you're very focused on something. Whereas on a leaner team, I'm finding with the city, you've got to be more of a jack of all trades. You've got to be flexible. You've got to be able to both be willing to do things more broadly across the spectrum of security capabilities, but you also have to be more flexible in terms of, rolling up your sleeves. And sometimes, it's getting into the tools or getting into the data, and it's, it's not just everything at arm's length.
Interesting. And so what about, attracting talent in an environment like that? Do you any challenges there?
Absolutely. That's there's a couple ways that it's challenging. So first of all, we're not able to offer salaries at the rate that the private sector can. We just can't. So, and then the other thing that has been meaningful for me, but probably a little more so my family, is that, the vacation time, at least at the start, is significantly limited. So it's 12 days to start. Whereas, where I came from, I had a month of vacation. So that was immediately cut in half. But really the selling point for me to prospective candidates is the mission of what we do. Each and every day we wake up and we're protecting the data, we're protecting the systems that deliver services to the constituents of the city of Chicago. And to me, it's such a rich and meaningful mission that we're the third largest city in the country, as you said. And if you just walk around and look around, it's like the buildings around here, the people around here, the institutions around here, it's all supported by the work that we do. So you're helping where you live. Just speaking of challenges, there's the requirement that you have to live in the boundary of the city of Chicago, but it's really the mission. But it's also the opportunity, because we are a leaner team. There's more opportunities to do varied things. Or if you have, if you worked with a particular tool set at a previous organization and we're not delivering that capability yet, there's an opportunity to build that out. If we can show have the business case for how it's going to support the mission and how it's going to help the city, then there's those opportunities, because we aren't so constrained that you've got the ability to kind of build out whatever capability that you're working on and really write your own ticket a little bit. So I think that with a leaner team, there's more opportunities like that. There's fewer guardrails, and also the mission. So those are the two things that I work on selling folks when they talk about being interested in coming to work on the team.
The article this podcast is based upon can be viewed in the best-selling cybersecurity leadership book, CISO Compass, Navigating Cybersecurity Leadership Challenges with Insights from Pioneers. And in terms of technology, I remember a few years ago, I saw I think she was the CIO at the time for the city of Chicago, and she was talking about the smart technology that was being put in place and all the IoT devices. And has there been a lot of emphasis on the security around that for Chicago as well?
Sure, most certainly. That's an environment that we have to secure. Interestingly, different administrations have different priorities. So while that array of things was a project that was championed by the Emanuel administration, there hasn't been as much of late. That's neither good nor bad. It's just it's just a fact. I think it will be interesting here going forward over the next couple of years, with the advancements in technology, where if you look currently, and then even dating back to the Emanuel administration, things like the array of things were more of kind of like a pilot type program. I think technology has evolved and matured to where we're really going to start to see smart city capabilities really take root here in probably the next 5 to 6 years. And so that will be a challenge for us to understand, okay, where are they going to be hosted, how we're going to protect them, whether that's on-prem, in the cloud, and making sure that we've got the right capabilities in place to support adding these new capabilities that with the goal of enriching the lives of the people that are here.
Sure, absolutely. So the last couple of years, we've had significant change, obviously with COVID, and we've had protests. We've had a lot of we've had unrest. We've had a political country that's very divided. How is all of that impacted what you do?
Well, I would say, fortunately, from an IT perspective, from a cybersecurity perspective, it's very apolitical, right? There's nothing political about the mission of protecting the systems and the data for the city. So from that perspective, it's been good. Certainly, along with that unrest has come, activists, hacktivists, people that want to use activism and hacktivism as a cover for other goals. But certainly we've seen that reflect in the attempts on the city from a cyber perspective. And again, it's going back to making sure that we've got the right controls in place to protect the city's systems, protect the city's data. And fortunately, we've got the support internally, and we've got, good folks on the team that have been able to deliver on that.
So this position, is it a hired position, an appointed position? How does that work with changing mayors and all of that sort of thing?
Very, very topical, seeing as how we just had our runoff election last evening, and we have a new mayor-elect, Brandon Johnson. He'll be taking seat here in about 5 weeks. So yes, and again, as I mentioned before, there aren't many apples for apples. Every city, every municipality, county, state level is different. So for myself, I'm an appointed position. So I'm appointed by the mayor and the mayor's team. So I was hired under the Rahm Emanuel administration, and within 6 months. I take that back. About within 9 months, the Lightfoot administration took over. So I was vetted by that administration and continued on. And the same thing will happen here with the Johnson administration. So again, I serve at the direction of the mayor and the mayor's office. So there's certainly the possibility that I might be looking for a job here in a couple of weeks. But, I think we've got the right plans and the right direction in place, both from a cybersecurity perspective as well as an IT modernization perspective. I'm hoping, and I'm, we'll say hoping that that everything progresses forward. I think we're on a great path, and definitely looking forward to executing on the plans we have in place.
It sounds like you have phenomenal growth, and sounds like great opportunity for anybody that wants to be in cybersecurity. I'm just curious. So, also with the hiring, in terms of skill level, what skill level do you look at? Do you have entry level people coming into the organization, or are you looking for all senior people, or how does that? What does that look like?
Sure. The flippant answer would be rock stars only. But I am fortunate to have a great team. But in seriousness, one of the things that we've done as a part of our IT modernization is we've revisited all of our job descriptions, and we've rewritten all the job descriptions. We've rewritten all the titles for IT. And so one of the things that I made a point was that not only do we have positions for skilled, seasoned professionals, but I wanted to make sure that there was an entry point for folks with minimal skills. So whether, or I'll say minimal experience, perhaps,
right,
is a better way of saying it. So if somebody's coming out of the city colleges with an associate's degree, then I wanted to make sure that there was a job description that allowed for that, and that the minimum requirements weren't such that that person didn't have an entry into our program. So we've put that in place, and we are, there's another effort that we're working with city colleges on figuring out, how can we do internship programs and mentorship or apprenticeship programs? How can we build that to again create another channel for local folks here in Chicago to get in and don't have that barrier. People always joke, needing 8 years of experience with a technology that's only 4 years old. We don't want to have that in place. And then the other thing that I've tried to do is make the program attractive for both people who want to work for a government entity for a long period of time. One of the things that used to be, or I could say still is attractive to some folks, is the pension opportunity. So if you work for the city for 20 years, you've got your pension. I don't know the precise numbers, but historically, when you're talking about retirement income, that was a very attractive mechanism. And it still is for many, many jobs. As you know, in cybersecurity, in IT, there's a large demand for jobs. So you see people jumping from job to job. So my challenge is I need to make sure that what we do is attractive for people that want to stay here long term, just as much as it is for somebody who wants to come and either get some experience on the resume, or maybe they've just got an itch for working in the public sector and they want to, satisfy that and then, spend a couple of years, do some good, and then move on. I've got to make it attractive for both. And that's part of what I've tried to do in kind of marketing the opportunity to work for the city.
Sounds like a great mix. Well, this has been great, Bruce. I've learned a lot. So what final advice would you give to emerging CISOs, current CISOs, new CISOs, as they're going down this journey?
Sure. Well, the piece of advice is a little off from what we've been talking about, but it's certainly something that I would say, being in the position of the CISO for the city of Chicago, it's been afforded to me just by nature of the position. And hopefully it's common sense for most folks. But what I'd encourage people is, if you're in the CISO seat, then, taking that, or if you're somebody, in the security organization, making sure that this is in place for your team, is making sure that you've got existing relationship with your local FBI team. And local might be in air quotes because we've got, local office here in Chicago, but maybe you are in Bloomington, Illinois, and the closest office is Springfield. But making sure you know who those contacts are ahead of time, build that into your incident response plan, and build that relationship so that you're not scrambling at the time that you need somebody, trying to figure out who it is, pick up the phone, and it's a cold call, somebody that, and you don't have that relationship built. If you've already built that, obviously it's going to make that piece of a bad day go a little bit better. And by the same token, reach out and figure out who your local CISA region representation is for cyber. We've got a great team here in Region 5, both here in Chicago and down in Springfield, have great folks. And these folks, both on the FBI Cyber Squad and in CISA, in the regions, they're here to help us. They're here to help us be successful. They have programs that will help. Depending upon the size of your organization, how your organization's position, it may be of great help or it may be a little help. But these folks are there, and they're there to help us. So reach out, get to know them. They're all good people, and that would be my recommendation.
I think that's great advice. Thanks, Bruce. Thanks for taking the time today to talk with us.
Thank you so much, Todd. I appreciate the opportunity.
Visit more CISO Stories podcasts on securityweekly.com, where you will find an index to prior episodes. The Cybersecurity Collaborative is a unique membership community enabling cybersecurity leaders to work together in a trusted environment. To learn more, visit securityweekly.com/CSC or visit cyberleadersunite.com.